Hey everyone, so Go Battle League finally dropped and I was able to do all 15 of my battles today, so I'm going to go over some highlights of that. If you're new to the channel and just getting into PvP, hopefully this could be a good introduction to what things you can bring into Go Battle League, as well as things to keep in mind for PvP in general. I'm not going to go over all 15 of my battles, I'll cover a few that I think are informative or entertaining. So for the first 3 battles, I pretty much am using Melmetal, Lapras, and Azumarill with Melmetal lead every single time. I actually led Melmetal in all my matches. And so with Superpower, Melmetal is actually really solid against all the other tanks. As you can see, it's going to be able to do quite a bit of damage with Superpower alone. And it charges, I believe, a little bit faster than Rock Slide as well. So it can be quite spammy with Thundershock. And, I'm just going to shield this Flamethrower right here. I'm going to drop another Superpower. And so the main thing is the debuffs you get from Superpower will go away if you switch out. And so I saw that this opponent ended up using all shields at this point. So I'm just going to farm down this Bastiodon with Bubbles. So definitely opponent that at least has meta-relevant Pokemon, right? And so Bastiodon is definitely pretty strong. And then, of course, Azumarill, and I think his lead was Altaria. So all pretty meta-relevant Pokemon. At this point, I didn't actually have Play Rough on my Azumarill. I like this moveset more for the most part. Play Rough with Ice Beam might be a little better based off of the other match I saw. So one key thing to note is Melmetal with Rock Slide can actually beat Azumarill. As long as you shield the Hydro Pump. And then obviously this Rock Slide is going to do quite a bit of damage to the Altaria. And so just one more Rock Slide should do it. And I believe I shield right here, so I didn't end up even having to use Lapras in this matchup. I was mostly using Lapras as a safe switch throughout, but because I won the lead advantage here too, I didn't really need it. So that was the first match. I'm going into the second match with same lead, same Pokemon as well. So this one is actually not like a close one, but it's kind of things you shouldn't do. So especially if you're new to PvP, Butterfree is not the best Pokemon in general. It's also double weak to rock, so that's why I was able to one-shot it. And then, so this is actually kind of interesting because Breloom is not usually the best Pokemon for PvP, but it hits really hard, and had this had counter, it probably would have done even more damage. But because it had Bullet Seed, the grass is being resisted by this Melmetal. And the main thing is I have a Lapras and a Azumarill in the back, and so these Bullet Seeds are going to do a ton of damage to both of them if I switch into them. So I'm pretty much relying on a Melmetal to take out a Breloom, which is a little ironic because usually Breloom can beat Melmetal, especially if it has counter. So now he has a Blissey, and so I go for the Superpower just because it'll be super effective against the against the normal type, and then I'm just going to switch straight to Azumarill and pretty much just go for Hydro Pumps at this point. I'm showing this video specifically because Blissey, although is kind of annoying to fight in gyms, if you're new to PvP, you'll realize that Blissey's not the best in PvP, as well as Chansey. I haven't actually used a Blissey, but I've used Chansey before. And so Hyper Beam seems like it might be a solid move, but because the attack stat is so low on a Blissey, it's just not going to do that much damage. And we actually get timed out right here. So there's a time limit to PvP. For, I guess, Go Battle League, they don't have a timer, but it's really whoever has the most Pokemon left with the most amount of HP wins. Okay, so going into my third matchup right here, I'm going against a Victory Bell with my Melmetal, and so definitely not the most ideal. And he does a quick switch into Medicham, which is a good move on the opponent's end, and so I'm not going to shield anything from this Medicham just because everything is pretty much resisted from Azumarill. It's possible that he has Psychic, but unlikely for this format. And so I'm going to hit him with the Ice Beam, and then I'm not going to shield anything because it's probably going to be Power Punch. Ice Punch will be also resisted, so there's really no need there. And then right here, I'm just going to pretty much just farm down this Medicham. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable right now. I know he has a Victory Bell in the back, and so I'm just going to go for Ice Beam, and I figured that I probably get to another one, and I do, which is really helpful just because this is going to do quite a bit of damage to the Victory Bell if he doesn't win it. And so right here I go instantly for a Rock Slide, and so he Acid Sprays me, which does even less damage, and then Leaf Blade. And so I know he's probably coming in with his Medicham, so I quickly swap to a Lapras. Lapras is weak to Medicham, but I know he's low on health. And so here's where it gets tricky. So even though Bastiodon is weak to water, the Stone Edge or the Smackdowns the rock moves are hurting my Lapras quite a bit. And so he knows that there's no point in him using a charge move at this point because I have 2 shields and I'm going to block all the charge moves. And so this match is super low and I realized that I probably lost. So I lost that match with 2 shields remaining. So if I'd known better, maybe I could have shielded my Azumarill, but honestly, like, all his moves weren't going to do that much damage. So that was my first loss in Go Battle League. Not ideal, but I think my opponent played very well in that specific matchup, especially switching out his Medicham because had his Medicham died earlier, he would have definitely lost because that Bastiodon wasn't going to be able to take out my Lapras. So I finally decided to switch my team. So I'm going Melmetal, Haunter, and Azumarill. So I'm going to use Haunter as a safe switch. And the main reason why I switched it out is because what I realized is if they bring Medicham and I have to safe switch to something, I really only have Azumarill to counter the Medicham. So if I don't line that up perfectly, then I'm kind of screwed. So he ends up double shielding his... Okay, so that's a funny scene. So he ends up double shielding his Raikou, and I go in to try to farm some energy with Haunter. And then I almost get immediately deleted by the Sharpedo with Bite. Sharpedo has a very high attack stat, and if you're not careful, you can definitely get screwed over there. So something to really be careful of, especially if you're newer to PvP, is depending on how quick people switch in, and you might not see what the Pokemon is right away, but if it's a fast-hitting, or hard-hitting fast move like Bite, especially on a Pokemon that has a very high attack stat like Sharpedo, it can really take your Pokemon out very quickly. So you have to always be kind of aware of where your charge moves are, how much energy you have, and what you can use. So I was able to turn that one around, but it was just odd to see a Sharpedo. So going into this next matchup, I'm also going with Haunter again in the middle with Azumarill and Melmetal. So I have Melmetal and Azumarill in all my matchups, but I'm really switching that second Pokemon right there. So he's actually going to consistently hit me with Mud Bombs. And I'm actually at this point kind of surprised that they haven't switched out yet. So my guess is whatever this person has in the back is weak to Azumarill too. And so he's kind of forced to use Whiscash at this point. And so I'm just not going to shield because I know that I can survive this, and I go straight for a Hydro Pump. They should one-shot the Whiscash if all things go well, but they end up shielding again. So they're down 2 shields at this point with a decent amount of energy banked up. Now this is a tricky situation because both Haunter and Melmetal are weak to Mud Bombs, to ground moves. And so right here, I'm going to take another Mud Bomb, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. So my plan is I'm just going to use Superpower. It'll debuff Melmetal, but then I'll be able to switch it into Haunter and get rid of debuff. And so it's actually Altaria, which is not ideal. It does quite a bit of damage to Dragon Breath, but Shadow Ball hits really, really hard. That's why I like Haunter. And here's where it gets tricky. So this is a Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff resists Ghost moves pretty well, and so it's not going to do much damage. And now I have a very low health Melmetal. Even though Steel resists fairy damage, Charm still hits pretty hard. And here's where I make a critical mistake. So instead of going for Superpower, which you saw it was actually ready, I was going for Rock Slide for some reason. And even though Superpower was ready, I just didn't click it, and it would have been enough to take out that Wigglytuff. So I ended up losing with a shield remaining too. So that was actually my second loss in Go Battle League. Was not ideal. Luckily, both losses come in between the 5, like in different sets of 5 passes, so still a shot for me to win those 5 charge TMs, which is important. I'm going in with Melmetal, Haunter, and Azumarill again. By the way, that last matchup, that was a user error on my end. Could have won that one, but the opponent definitely played well there too, recognizing that they couldn't switch out the Whiscash and had to take out my Azumarill. So right here, I'm just gonna let my opponent take me out with a Skarmory because I know I have Melmetal back. And Melmetal is going to really take out Skarmory right there. And so I go in for the Superpower because I see that it's a Swampert coming in. I'm going to go straight in with the Haunter. Haunter, I'm just going to shield because Haunter's really glassy, can't really take any damage. But now at this point, I could just farm down with Shadow Claws. And like I said, the Superpower debuffing it is not a bad idea because once you switch out, the debuff goes away. And at this point, I'm just going to shield the Skarmory and farm it down with Shadow Claws because I know that I'll be able to survive, and then I'm just going to hit whatever comes out next with a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball hits really hard, and luckily it's a Cresselia, so super effective damage. Had this Cresselia had Confusion instead of Psycho Cut, it might have taken out the Haunter, but there was still Melmetal in the back, and that resists all of Cressella's moves. So I believe I'm going in with Haunter for this one again. Okay, so this is actually a pretty funny matchup. So I switched straight into Haunter. I have a Azumarill too, so I know that even if I lose this matchup, I can still take it out. Now, this was a little bit overkill. I shouldn't have gone for Shadow Ball. I should have just gone for Shadow Punch. Machamp's already kind of glassy, and chances are they're probably going to use a shield as well. And so I'm just going to go for another Shadow Punch here. They end up shielding again. I shield thinking it might be a Rock Slide. Dynamic Punch is actually resisted, so that's not the worst case scenario if I took it. But like I said, Haunter is a little glassy too. And Machamp does hit pretty hard. Right here, I'm going in. There's a little bit of lag. I'm going for the Shadow Ball. I end up just shielding it. Right, I probably could have just gone away with Shadow Punch here as well. So a little bit overkill just because Zapdos was pretty much half health. But either way, I was able to get another Shadow Punch. And so as you can see, Haunter actually 1v3'd this entire team, which I thought was pretty entertaining. But okay, so going into this matchup, I believe I actually swap out Haunter at this point for Alolan Raichu. And the reason is I just kind of want to try out Alolan Raichu, see how it plays out. Both Haunter and Alolan Raichu are weak to ground anyway, so I'm really kind of trading out weaknesses. Or not trading out weakness, but swapping for the same thing with similar weakness. So Gardevoir is double shielding my Melmetal. Probably not the best idea in my opinion, just because, like I said before, Steel type is going to resist that Fairy. But anyway, I do a quick switch into Alolan Raichu, which the double electric weakness on Gyarados really took a hard hit from Alolan Raichu. I'm actually in a tricky situation right now. The main reason I say this is because I don't really have anything that beats this Abomasnow in the back end. Yes, Steel resists the Razor Leaves, but I know that my Melmetal is really low on health. And at this point too, I mean, this is a really bad situation for Azumarill to be in, but I know that I have a shield, so he's not going to be able to hit me with a charge move, and as long as I get to one Ice Beam, I should be fine. So, could have been a lot. That one could have been risky, depending on if had he not brought in Gyarados or something else, probably I might have lost that with the Abomasnow in the back. So going with Alolan Raichu again, bad lead for the opponents, but they did a good quick switch. And then here's why I really like Alolan Raichu. Similar to Haunter, it resists pretty much all of Medichamp's moves. Yeah, the Ice Punch will do neutral damage to Alolan Raichu, but it won't do that much damage just because it doesn't have stab with Ice. And so I'm just going to hit it with Thunder Punches, and at this point I assume it's probably going to be another Power Punch. And I might have been able to farm down the Medicham, but I was just like, let's just take it out at this point. They're down shields, so I'm not too worried. And I was able to get to another Thunder Punch again with Volt Switch. With a recent buff Volt Switch, it actually does quite a bit of damage, which is nice. And then so here I have Melmetal again, favorable matchup with Altaria. I was kind of concerned they're going to switch, but I just go straight for the Rock Slide anyway. Nothing that Altaria throws out is going to hurt it. So I'm not going to shield here, and just take the Sky Attack. And then seeing what comes in next is a Azumarill. So like I said before, Rock Slide does a decent amount of damage against Azumarill with from Melmetal. And then I'm just going to go in for another one. They can either try farming down or just use a charge move at this point to avoid it. But I think they realize that they kind of need as much edge as possible. But that being said, 2 shields up against Azumarill. Even if it's play rough, it's not going to be enough to take me out before I get to this Hydro Pump. And I believe this one is a play rough. There's no point really even having to shield this at this point. Unless Azumarill had like Grass, not a Wild Charge, which it does not. I knew there's no way I could lose. And I'm going into this last matchup, currently 12 and 14. So trying to wrap it up in 13 and 15 in this last set. What is this called? It's like Cricketune or something. I don't even remember the Pokemon's name, but not a good matchup against Melmetal. The bug typing, I think it might be part flying as well. Super weak to Rock Slide. It's just not a great PvP mon in general. Actually, I was surprised they can even survive that Rock Slide. There was a little lag on my Bone's End, which is unfortunate. I don't really know what to do in those situations because had it been like another like ranked tournament match through Sylph, I would probably just tell them to rematch, but I don't know who the person is, and so I unfortunately can't. I don't think they were in a good situation anyway. But at this point, my opponent shields, and so it's down 1 shield. And I'm okay with that. I end up switching into Azumarill just to kind of do a bunch of damage with just Bubble alone. I know that I can survive anything that Bastion throws out. I think I was also trying to be a little cheeky and trying to win this with 2 shields remaining, so I was just doing random stuff at this point. Yeah, like I said, Hydro Pump is not the best against the Azumarill mirrors, but I mean, I like it for its coverage in other aspects. It beats Bastiodon and a bunch of other steals with Hydro Pump, and I think the Ice Beam is nice just for baits against the grass. For many situations. So yeah, Alolan Raichu doing a lot of work again, able to get to a Thunder Punch before the Bastion could hit me with a Stone Edge or Flamethrower, and then able to get to another Thunder Punch before the Azumarill could hit me with Ice Beam. And so that's the match. Ended up finishing with 2 shields. And yeah, so that was my first day of Go Battle League. I had a lot of fun for the most part. It is definitely a little different. Strategy can kind of vary a little bit, so having a good line of 3 can definitely help. Hopefully these pairings with Melmetal and Azumarill can help you out if you want to try them. Shadow Ball Haunter is no longer Legacy, so it's very easy to acquire. And Lapras, I was not as big of a fan, but it did win me a few matches early on. And then Alolan Raichu was actually a lot of fun to use. So definitely something to think about. I think just the TM rewards itself are pretty worth it. I'm definitely looking forward to Ultra League and Master League. Although they're a bit resource intensive, it's definitely not a format that I'm used to playing as much. So I think it'll be a refreshing change for sure. Feel free to subscribe for future content, and I'll see you all next time.